Good morning, my name is Erendira and I'm from Clues. Today we're going to be talking about motivation and how you as a student or your parents can help you support you with COVID and online learning to increase your motivation and for you yourself to find ways to increase your own motivation. There are two types of motivation. The first type is extrinsic motivation and the second type is extrinsic motivation. The first type is motivation that comes from the external world, such as things that, for example, praise, when your parents praise you, for example, rewards, if you get rewards, if you are in a competition, for example, if you win an award, that's an extrinsic motivation, which comes from the external world, and any type of motivation that it feels like it's compensating you for your work or compensating you for school or compensating you for finishing your homework, things like that. That's an external motivation. Things that come from the outside, that it's giving you some sort of compensation for doing something such as schoolwork or having an A or getting a great average in school, or for example having competitions, or if you're in sports and you win awards. That's external motivation. Then there's the other type, which is intrinsic motivation, which this is type of motivation that can grow and that we can grow, and it comes from within us. For example, when you finish something like a task and it was challenging, and even though it was challenging you completed it, then completing a task that was that hard, it motivates us. It makes us feel like joy and makes us feel like we achieved something, and gives us a sense of accomplishment or a sense of competence. It gives us that personal satisfaction of, wow, I completed this, or I finished this task, or I did this homework, or I have one left, so I feel that peace of mind that I have one last thing to do, or one task that it's already done, and I have to put it aside, and now we can start with the other one, and I have less things to do now because I finished this goal. So motivation that comes from within is kind of like giving us internal satisfaction to accomplish goals, or accomplish homework, or accomplish a task, or just even going to class and knowing that I went to class today and I show up and I was there the whole class. That can feel really good, right? Because sometimes some days might feel like I don't want to be in class, but when you do actually do it and you feel like, wow, I actually did that, it gives us that relief and that reassurance that, yeah, I can keep doing this, or I can do this, I got this. And that motivates us to keep doing that, or keep working towards those tasks, or towards that homework, or showing up for classes. So there are practical tips that we can do to help us increase that internal motivation that we were talking about in the previous slide. It's important to have that internal motivation, because that's kind of like the force that makes us want to do things, or makes us want to start doing something, or continue doing something that we are already doing. And then having these tips, or these little things that we can do to increase that motivation, can help us to need less of that external motivation. For example, we can start with having a structure or a routine in our daily lives. When we have set goals for the day, or when we have nice routine, or we have a schedule for the day, then that leaves us more organized, and we know exactly what we have to do, or we know what we have to get done throughout the day, or how our day is going to look like throughout the day, rather than not knowing where to start, or not knowing what to do. Because when things are ambiguous or uncertain, sometimes we can feel very confused and frustrated and not do anything because we don't know where to start. So having structure or routine can be very helpful. The second tip is having one task at a time done. It's important to take break between tasks. So having one task at a time gives us some time and space to just focus on this one thing, and rather than trying to do a million things at the same time, it's not okay to multitask. We cannot multitask. It's been proven. Multitasking leads to feeling overwhelmed or feeling like we're not really doing anything, or we're not accomplishing anything or finishing anything because we're doing a little bit of here, a little bit of that. So focusing on just one thing keeps us more grounded and more present to this one task, and it seems a little more manageable and more doable to do this one task. And then once I'm finished and I take a little break, and then I can have the mindset to focus on the next task. So it's important to celebrate those success. For example, if you finish a homework, it's important for you to pat yourself on the shoulder and say, hey, I did that homework, I finished it, I'm good, right? And feeling that relief and that joy of having to accomplish something and finish it. And if you like lists, checking it off from your list, it can feel really good. So you can celebrate your success by eating something, or maybe taking a little break, right? And that can be between 15 minutes, half an hour, depending how much things you have to do that day. But having those breaks and having time to celebrate your success and celebrate that you finish and accomplish something, it's very important, because when we celebrate ourselves and we pat ourselves in the back and we say, hey, way to go, I tried really hard in that task, or I really studied for that test, that gives us more motivation to continue doing it for the future task and our future homeworks. So the next step is to have short-term goals. We probably have a long list of everything that we have to do, and you probably have multiple homeworks, multiple exams to study for, multiple classes to show up. So having a short-term goal keeps us present to the moment and to the here and now, and to today. For example, we can say, today I will finish this task. So having that priority task that needs to be done first, then you can have those short-term goals. Rather than focusing in the whole term or the whole week, you can focus on this just one day, or this one homework, or this one class, for example. So having those short-term goals can be very beneficial to help us keeps us a little more organized and keeps us a little bit more realistic of what we can accomplish for today, rather than having big chunks of things to do and then we feel like we're not really advancing. So short-term goals makes us feel like we're actually progressing, because we are, right? Little by little. Like I said, taking breaks is important, and I mean breaks as in taking 15 minutes between classes, for example, or maybe half an hour or to an hour if we have more homework to accomplish that day, then coming back and completing the other task, or coming back and completing another homework. Then having a support system is important. For example, you can reach out to your professors, you can reach out to other classmates, or other friends that you have that go to your same school or have the same classes as you, and also you can ask your parents for support as well. Growth mindset. It's important to remember that our brain has the ability to grow, and our brain has the capacity to learn new things. Even if something seems very challenging, or something seems like we don't get it, or it is just too hard, we can learn. And sometimes we feel like, oh, maybe I'm not smart enough. That's not true. We can learn, or brain can learn, and it takes time and patience, but it's doable. So some tips that we can do for challenging tasks or homeworks or classes that can be hard to understand sometimes, we can do things such as, for example, chunking into smaller tasks. Like if you have a big homework and you don't understand it very well, doing one task first. Like for example, you can read this chapter for today, and maybe you can summarize that later, the next day or the next morning. So chunking that task into little sections can make it a little more manageable and more doable for you to start doing more other tasks within that homework, or understanding it a little bit better, because when sometimes things are very hard to understand or they can be very challenging, it can be overwhelming if we want to finish it that day, if we want to finish everything in just one day, or everything, that week, it can be really hard. So sometimes acting a little bit in advance, or starting your homework a little in advance so that we can break it down into little pieces, that can make it a little more manageable, and it's more likely that we're going to learn a little bit more, because we're going to dedicate more time to the little task that comes with finishing or completing this big homework assignment. The important thing is to just start with something, and that can be starting with the hardest thing. For example, you say, well, I'm gonna do the hardest task, or I'm gonna do the hardest class that I have, and that's great. Or sometimes you might feel like, I need to do the easy things because I'm overwhelmed, or I'm stressed, or I don't feel like doing anything. So sometimes starting with the easy task can be a little bit more doable. If we're not feeling like starting with anything, starting with an easy task might not take that much effort, or it might not take that much energy to start. So we can start with this thing that it's very easy, and then it kind of helps us to get it going, right? Because we're starting with something that maybe doesn't take that much concentration, or it doesn't take that much thinking about it, and we can just start and get it done with, and then we can check it off and say, oh, you know what, I started with this task that was easy, but I finished it. And that makes you feel better because you accomplished something, and you finished one homework, and you got that done out of the way. So you're gonna be more likely to feel good about yourself, and then you can concentrate in this other bigger task or more challenging tasks. Also, if there's some homeworks or some assignments that are really hard to understand or challenging, or there's a specific class that you don't really get it, ask for help, right? It's important to reach out to your teachers. Your teachers are there to help you, and don't be shy or afraid they're gonna be mad at you. They're not. Their job is to be there for you and to support you and whatever help you need. So they can tell you that maybe you can reach them through the phone, or they can be reachable by email. Whatever preferable way to reach your teachers, is important to reach out to them. The sooner the better, alright? Because you don't want to wait for the last day of the assignment to reach out to them and say, hey, I don't understand the homework, because you're gonna need more time to finish it. So it's important that if you don't understand something, ask right away, or ask clarification questions, or ask them to give you an example, so that they can work with you and explain things a little bit better and give you more examples so that you can understand it better, and then you can continue and doing your assignment. Also, you can also connect with other classmates. For example, if you have a question and your teacher didn't answer, or maybe it's a question that you think other classmates maybe understood, you can reach out to your other classmates, and also it makes you feel like you're not in this alone. It's important to have a support system and feel like, I'm not alone in this, I'm not the only one doing homework. There are other students like me that are struggling perhaps with this assignment, or struggling with this this class in particular. So reaching out to them to have that support system, and to maybe together come up with, whatever it is that you guys need to understand to complete the assignment, or maybe someone can explain you some things, and you can also help them understand, or help each other understand what assignment is for and what you can do to accomplish it. So having those connections with other classmates, it's really important as well. Also, keep in mind that learning takes time, so having a positive attitude. Like I said, remembering that, hey, you know what, learning takes time, and maybe I don't get it right now, or maybe I didn't get a good grade in this assignment, but you know what, maybe I did learn something, and that's okay. Even if it was just one thing that I learned, that's a lot. So next time I might learn another thing, and next time maybe I'll do a little bit better in my next assignment, or my next homework, or my next exam. So little by little you can see your progress. It just takes patience and time and a positive attitude, but you can do it. You got this. Also, being flexible. Right now it's important to adjust our expectations. With COVID and everything going in the world, and having online learning, it can be really challenging, it can be boring, and it can be isolating. So having flexibility with yourself and being kind to yourselves is important. And as parents also, if you have children, being kind to them and being flexible with them and understanding that online learning can be challenging. And maybe you can also talk to your parents about this and explain to them how hard this is for you, or how hard it is to focus when you have to be online instead of in class learning. There are things that you can do to increase your learning. For example, you can experiment with different learning approaches, such as using audiobooks. Sometimes just reading can be a little boring, so sometimes if you're listening to it and you're following along with the textbook or listening to the audiobook instead of just reading it, it can be a little bit more easier for you to comprehend, or it can be a little faster for you to maybe read something, an assignment that might be a little dull. So having audiobooks, that can be helpful. Another thing can be having learning games. For example, making your learning a lot more fun or making it more challenging. Like, for example, maybe having classmates join you in the learning, and maybe together we can test each other and you can ask questions each other, and having that support group or having to do homework with your classmates can be a little bit more fun, and you're still studying and you're still having to accomplish your task and finishing your homework, but you're doing it with other people, and that can be a little bit more fun, and that can also motivate you to keep going and to keep doing your homework. Other things you can do, it's like using flashcards, for example, having different colors, something fun for you to do, something that can help you memorize. Sometimes doing things just out of a screen can be a little boring, so sometimes having a physical item can help us to learn a little bit more. But overall, hopefully these steps help you a little bit, and just don't lose faith in yourself, be flexible with yourselves, and be kind to yourselves, and I know that you can get this. Thank you.